We're talking all things fermented today, and Danny's going to show us a fermented relish.
Yes,
interesting.
A tomato salsa that we're going to ferment. So just really taking advantage of the natural process of fermentation to lend a bit of zing and sourness to some really simple ingredients.
For those at home that don't know what fermenting is, in a nutshell.
So with fermenting, we're using the natural bacteria that's present on our food and all around us to create a reaction in the food which sours it, which wakes up these good bacteria that are fantastic for our gut health and taste amazing.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say. That was a nutshell. It's fantastic. And I think it's very in vogue at the moment. A lot of people are doing it at home. There are courses you can do.
There are great books. And look, I'm not an expert, but I think the reason I want to do it, apart from the fact that it tastes great and it's good for us, is I suppose to unlock it a little bit. Like anyone can do it. I don't know, we know more about the science behind fermentation now because there's been so much research on gut health and on microbes and what, how they act on food. But people have been fermenting for thousands of years before they knew what bacteria was, before they knew about microbes, before they knew about fermentation as such. Like, we know more about it now, but even without knowing that much, you can do it and have lots of fun with it.
And I think the two main vegetables that we know that are fermented are kimchi.
Yes.
And sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Which, so easy to find these days, already done, but now we can make it at home.
Easy to make it yourself. And I think even, as you say, sauerkraut, and we think sort of Central European, and kimchi, we think Korea, we can see that fermentation is part of so many cultures around the world.
Yep.
And it's just a natural way of, first of all, preserving foods, but also increasing their benefits. It's really great and it's really easy and you don't need any special equipment.
Nope.
All we're really doing is putting some ingredients, some vegetables and some spices in a jar. We're going to salt them and we're going to let nature do its work.
So I'm finally chopping up one celery stick and you've got some tomato. Yep. Are we going to use the leaves too for this?
You can absolutely use the leaves. So I think using the leaves really fits in with the whole vibe of fermentation, which is making the most of everything. Yep. So yeah, why not use the leaves? They'll add another accent to this salsa.
And that's another point to touch on. When a vegetable is in peak season, it's plentiful, it's at a good price, that's your time to buy it and make a few jars, or 10 jars if you like, of a fermented vegetable. Keep it, store it well, and you can have it throughout the year.
Yeah, that's right. So with the chilli, seeds in or out as you wish. I'm going to leave the seeds in.
Yeah, we love a bit of heat, don't we?
We do.
And I've got 2 cloves of garlic that I'm just roughly chopping. You happy with that, Danny?
Totally, I'm really happy with it. This is something that, you can go with the texture that you want. You could even have quite a combined salsa and even blitz it up. So you've got all those, so it really doesn't matter. We're just going to mix that all together.
Okay, in it goes.
I'm going to put in some peppercorns, but you could use any spices that you want. Okay. I'm going to put in some water just to moisten it up a bit. Vinegar, so it's not pickling. So the vinegar is for flavour. We're not pickling as such. So we can use vinegar, we can use lemon juice, and just use your favourite one of those because it's really just to add a little extra of the extra sour note.
Yeah. In general, fermenting, it's pretty much the salt and the agitation of the vegetables releasing that liquid that does the job.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of salt, let's not forget to put it in.
Some salt.
Yeah, so let's put in a couple of teaspoons. We can be pretty generous. And now, do you want to do the mushing?
Ooh, I'd love to.
Well, I think you should.
Oh, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
And it is trial and error. You did touch on that earlier. I mean, the first time I made sauerkraut, I put way too much salt in, so I knew next time to cut that back a little. Taste and see how you go with it. Nothing worse than over-salting it, though, because it just takes over.
Yeah, you want to enjoy eating it. So that's as simple as it needs to be. That's looking pretty beautifully mushed. And now it's as simple as putting it into the jar. And you can use other vegetables for this, other spices certainly. So you could put in some cloves, will be nice, cucumber sticks. You could put in some chilli flakes if you didn't have fresh chilli. Yeah. Green chilli is also really nice. But yeah, just a really delicious salsa.
Pack it in?
Pack it in a little bit because you want the liquid to be over the top. So make sure there's enough juice in there. So yeah, we've probably made enough for a bigger jar or 2 jars, but that's all good. And yeah, just give it a little press down. And we're going to use our bay leaves to help us make a lid.
Okay.
So we can just take the bay leaves and just sort of fold them over, because what we're looking for is it's an anaerobic fermentation, which means that oxygen is not our friend in this one. We want everything to be submerged. So the bay leaves can do part of that job, but we can also use a little ramekin and just make sure that everything's submerged before we get the lid on. So this is a delicious salsa that I will often serve it with tacos, or you might serve it with grilled meat or with sausages. It's really versatile. I will confess to having it straight out of the jar at times as well.
I know, well, that's what I want to do. I want to try it straight out of the jar in true Danny and Justine form.
Yes.
And here's one that you made 5 days ago.
Yeah.
And so you've been testing it over those 5 days. Do you open it, taste it, and check it?
You want to open it because as part of the fermentation process, you might get some bubbling, so you want to burp the jar. So just release that pressure every day. It's just as quick as 1 second of the lid off and then straight back on. And as soon as it tastes nicely soured, if it's to your taste, then it's ready. At that point, pop it in the fridge and eat it over the next week or two. All right, so get in there, get some of all those little bits.
Taste. Tomato. So yum.
That sourness and the sharpness.
It just shows how easy it is to do at home. Sterilised jars, beautiful vegetables, bit of salt. Bob's your uncle.
Totally is.
Or Danny's your auntie.